In the bottom left, we have, sporting the light pink made famous by Stefano, it is Atomic. In top right, we have his opponent taking the first game, sporting that wonderful Day 9 yellow. It is Scipio. All right, so like I just said, for the benefit of the YouTube viewers, this is another map where the third is just bizarrely far away and vulnerable to run-bys and drops and all sorts of manner of nastiness. But the distance from base to base is much smaller than it is on Star Station. As a result, two base pushes are a little bit more effective here. I think, though, I wouldn't be surprised if Scipio ends up going for... no Overlord high fives because we don't have ZVZs. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going for that macro game again. I mean, he did see that he was able to really control what Atomic won for pretty well there, reacted extremely well, had great control, had great macro. And in a lot of situation like that, I wouldn't be surprised if a person just thinks to themselves, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And going for the scout here makes a lot of sense. He's just getting close enough to see where the base is, see how many drones there are, check for a spawning pool. Actually diving right in the middle of the workers is a pretty brave thing right there. Spawning pool actually coming out at about 14-15. I'm going to probably bring that probe down there and try and block the Nexus for as long as possible. I mean block the expansion for as long as possible. Bouncing down to make sure that he didn't miss it already. Checking for that drone. As you can see, he's actually bringing the probe along with the drone. Getting down there just before it does. And now he's going to run it around, block it as long as he possibly can. You really want to keep that coming up. If you like another 10-15 seconds that you can prevent that base from coming out. Ooh, there's another 10-15 seconds that your push can be a little bit stronger. Now he was able to get that down in a fairly good time. It's about standard actually you see in typical pro games there, so turning out all right for Atomic in that situation. But it's still annoying nonetheless. For those of you that are just joining us, this is game 2. Scipio was able to take the first game, holding off a Roach Rush from Atomic very, very expertly. Excellent control on his part, not losing even really any immortals to the actual Roach push itself. And then being able to take advantage of the late third from the Zerg with a nice push with some Colossus. And so far in this game, nothing really crazy has happened. Just the usual shenanigans with the base being blocked, fast expand from the Protoss now coming out. And once again, going for that gateway style from Scipio, which is turning out to be very strong against what his opponent has been doing so far. Like, not seeing that fast, aggressive, economic style, but instead going for a more kind of unit aggressive, kind of damaged focus style of play, which this opening is quite good against. So at least that's kind of the impression that I'm getting here. Again, I will admit, I haven't seen as many games at this level, or really any, that are utilizing the gateway opener. Unfortunately, nothing to actually block the entrance this time. So the Zerglings are able to get in, see everything they want, see that there's, total lack of any forge. So he's not at any risk of getting cannon rushed. He sees the gases, sees that one extra probe is hanging out in the gases. Oh no. That may not necessarily seem like a big deal, but it cuts into your mineral income, and the better a player you are, the more precise that tends to become. And as a result, it just becomes very, very difficult to... You'll just find yourself missing things like, oh, this came up slightly late, this came up slightly late. And if you are going for that two-base style, that makes it somewhat less effective because things don't work quite as well. Now you can see here is actually Atomic's just really being annoying with the Zerglings, poking a little bit at the pylons, trying to get that Zealot out of position so he can try and slip back in the base, or even just get away with even killing the pylon. Oh, okay, new Zealot comes out, is able to block the entrance. No more additional scouting information can be picked up at that point. But not really a lot he can work with here. What he really wanted to do is see if he could spot whatever tech comes out from the Protoss. Usually it comes out between 30 and 40, whether he's going for that Robo, going for a Stargate, and you can see that this time Scipio is opting for more of the Stargate route. This is kind of the more traditional opener, unless he's going for something a little bit cheesier, going for maybe Oracle to get some harassment in, or going for some strange Void Ray attack. It's pretty typical to see Protosses go for Phoenixes. You go for the Phoenixes, get it to about 3, I would say probably about 4 or 5, run around the map, kill Overlords, put the Zerg in the dark, start picking up drones, basically force him to get static defenses against air, and then encourage him to go down Hydralisk. And the idea there is you transition back into the Colossus, and then you're able to deal with the Hydras. Now, the interesting thing here is he's actually going for the air upgrades, so this is pretty unusual, actually. You almost never really see anybody do this with the Phoenix style. This may be something that he's worked on his own, or maybe he does have some kind of unique build plan. Now, I think Atomic might be able to pick up on the idea that this isn't a Warp Gate that's actually being made right now. Wait a minute. Okay, he does have it. That's good. For a second, I'm like, did he make a mistake? That'd be kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, he may not necessarily realize that that's the upgrade coming, and here we go. It's going to be an Oracle. Now, okay, the Oracle's going to get seen probably the instant it comes out, but that thing flies fast. We're talking a unit which is faster than which is pretty much, okay, not faster. It's the same speed as a Mutalisk, and he's actually sending it out the back. Wow. Good reaction there to actually send it around so it doesn't get picked up on. There are some, I believe those are Zerglings hanging out in the middle of the map, and in fact 32 more are actually in production. So he may be thinking of going for a run-by with this, and there's really actually no wall off at the front there, and only a couple Zerglings. He's going to be somewhat vulnerable to that, and unfortunately it looks like both players are just going to be going for the economic damage around the other. Now, the thing is, the Oracle attack is going to start a lot sooner, and there hasn't been any reaction here yet. One Oracle can kill a Queen. The Queen will be able to do some damage to it, and unfortunately the Oracle wasn't quite fast enough on the draw, and as a result, it's not actually going to be able to pick on those probes there. But he's going to probably hang out here. He's going to look around, try and get an idea of what the army looks like, and the fact that he doesn't see one should be making him very nervous right now. 2 more Stargates coming out. This Oracle does have enough health to actually just kill this Queen. It's going to do that, but it loses a lot of its energy in the process, not to mention he isn't staying on top of it, and it does drain energy even when it's not firing, as long as the firing mode has been activated. So there's not a lot of work, as much that he could get done there, not to mention a second Queen in position. So it looks like Atomic has gotten out of that without any real damage to his mineral line. Maybe. This guy's going to hang out here, probably charge up for a little bit, and then go in for another attack. Now, the unfortunate reality is, had those Zerglings been sent over to do the attack earlier, they probably could have gotten a lot done. But now there's like, what, 6, 7 Zealots already hanging out in there? No, even more than that. They're just going to run straight up into this meat grinder and probably not really do anything. He might try to hold position them, but okay. These Zerglings are able to get a good surround out here and actually are going to run the wow, they're going to run the Zealots over completely. Probably because, wow, yeah, no upgrades have done at all for the Protoss in this one, but he was able to warp in some more and hold it off just fine. That's, you know, that's a decent amount of minerals lost for the Protoss right there, but even more so for the Zerg. So, awkward kind of opener between the two of them, going for some attempt at harassment, not really getting anything done, and it looks like we're just going to move into the next wave of tech. We have a fleet beacon coming out. It could be for upgrades, could be for something crazy like carriers, or we could be going for Tempest and going for a Zealot charge. Makes sense. Either way, if you're going for the big air army with 3 Stargates, you're not going to have very much gas. You're going to have a lot more minerals. So the Zealots do complement this very well. Now, the number of Zealots that he did see could be a little bit of a tip-off to Atomic on this one. He should be expecting some kind of potential air army here. And the Oracle does try to fly in, get some work done, but unfortunately just gets pelted at by the Queen, isn't really able to get too much done. It does have the ability, remember, to use Revelation, though, which is kind of a... if you remember the Parasite ability from Brood War, it basically does that for about a minute. It doesn't give you a complete vision of the unit, but it lets you see the unit itself moving around the map. So it's a good way to keep track of what your opponent's doing. So if he tries to go, say you hit a bunch of Zerglings with it, that's a carrier. Oh boy, there goes my thought. Let me finish that real quick. I was going to say, you see some Zerglings, you can throw Revelation down on it. They try to go for a counterattack. You can see it coming well in advance. And it looks like we're just going to have a big push of Zealots run across... Hydras running across the map right now. And this is bizarre, but may work. Problem is, these guys have no ability to kite these Zealots because they're really slow off creep, and the Zealots have charge. And he's actually moving into a place where he can't really kite. Oh boy. He is going to kill this third, but at this rate, this could turn out to be a little bit tricky for the... okay, did get the cancel off. I was going to say, this could actually be bad for the Zerg here. Here's the Zealots actually moving forward. They're going to cut apart a lot of these Hydras basically for free. They're on a move command, not really attacking. Loses about half of that force, and unfortunately, the rest are going to get run down. Some of them may survive getting back to the base. In the meantime, what is our Zerg friend doing? He's building some more Hydras, getting his Roach Warren. It's going to be done shortly here. Meanwhile, we have more carriers actually being produced, total of 3. And it's going to take some time for that to actually be super effective, though ironically he may die well before the carriers are even seen, as this defense is already going to be a little bit light with that much damage potential. And it looks like the Protoss has decided that I will do unto my enemy as he has done to me, take revenge for his lost Nexus by blowing the crap out of this hatchery. Down it goes. The Zealots are able to kill that fairly easily, but just as the Hydras were trapped before, now so too is the army. Now, one thing I would remind you is that those giant blue beams actually don't do any extra damage to Hydras whatsoever, but there's pretty much too much here. There's just so much damage. I don't think he can actually deal with this at the moment, so he's going to lose at least the remainder of this base. And don't see any static defenses coming up. More Hydras and Roaches coming out, though. And we'll see if he's really going to have enough at the end here. Does have some Queens. Queens help out a lot against the not the Hydras, against the Void Race. They don't, just like the Hydras, they don't take any extra damage from the super beams. But as you can see here, Scipio is more than content to simply run back to his base and start working on his carrier count. And we are slowly building into the Golden Armada stage. Now, the funny thing about going Protoss era is it's actually very difficult to afford unless you have that many bases. So he needs to get this third base up and running and protected, or eventually he may be actually offering a gateway of catching back up into this for Atomic. In the short term, it is looking a little bit grim for our Zerg friend, though. You'll notice that he is pretty far behind on workers, never a place you want to be as a Zerg. His army size is about equal, and against this kind of army, that's not a good thing. Moving out for the attack right now, and the unfortunate thing with this is with literally no creep sped to speak of, there is almost no way for these Queens to get across quickly, and you can see that now. It's going to really delay the vast majority of this attack. Zero finding the puns that I did not see myself, and it looks like Atomic's just opting to go back and actually pick up the space. Now, I don't know if he's actually scouted the carriers yet, and we have actually +3 attack being researched for the air. So these are going to be some pretty deadly interceptors and void rays that we're going to be seeing flying around. Carriers are not to be underestimated in their damage output. If you can get enough of them on the field, they can be almost impossible to kill without something that specifically targets them. Like a mass army of corruptors focusing down the carriers, presuming the carriers have no other kind of cover. That's one way to deal with it. If you're facing another Protoss player, obviously you don't want to make them, because Tempests are good at killing carriers fast and without being anywhere near the range of the interceptors. Big army on the ramp here. This is good positioning against the Zealots. We'll see if there's enough anti-air to actually deal with the rest of this. Zealots do scout the building third base. This is going to get canceled. And no real way to stop that. And unfortunately, he's actually moving out a little bit here. This is going to make the Zealots have a lot easier time engaging if he goes for it right now. Looks like the attack is actually going to start. He sees the carriers now. He's going to be like, what, carriers? Really? Okay. Cancel on the base. Not able to get that third up. Once again, being kind of like economically starved by the Protoss. This is a really, really, really difficult situation. What Atomic really needs in this situation, he needs a miracle army win. He needs to be able to beat the Protoss back, and it's going to be very hard. There's, well, first of all, we already got even more damage coming down on the worker line, but there's the upgrade difference. We have 3-2, and I believe it's going to be 3-3 in just a moment on the ground army, as well as 3 attack that's just about to finish for the air. Shields coming out as well. And I honestly think that alone, like even ignoring all the economic stuff, is going to probably make the biggest difference here. Now, that's so much firepower, though, that it's actually having to force the Protoss army back. These Zealots here are just not that effective against this force, and without something to really keep the Hydras from just ripping apart a lot of the firepower potential from the carriers, it's just not much you can do here. And you can even see he's seen it. He looks like he's threatening to turn back with Zealots. He's not going to do it, though. Moving a little bit further back toward the third. And it looks like the Protoss wants to engage from the safety of his base. This is, okay, now we have the opposite situation. The defensive terrain is definitely there in favor of the Protoss in this one. The Hydras are engaging against the carriers. They're doing a lot of damage, but here comes the attack. Zealots are moving forward, forcing the Hydras to fall back. and the air army's getting a little bit extra, some extra hits as a result. Now we have the regen power of the Queens are now in play. Unfortunately, not being able to be quick enough on that. Most of them are actually just getting vaporized here. And the Zealots are going to actually chop the rest of these guys up pretty quickly. The Queens have no ability to retreat. They're far too slow. All of them are going to die. And unfortunately, there just really isn't the economy to make much behind this. There's 11 more Hydras coming out, but this Zealot force alone may actually be enough to deal with that. It's going to eventually force the Hydras into a little bit of a corner here, and he's just basically going to run out of room. Unfortunately, the Hydras are not even out yet, so it's actually just these 5, and if they get into a fight now, there's going to be basically nothing to hold this off. Here we go. Void Rays and Carriers moving up into position. We have Zealots actually running in as well. Zealots doing a number to the mineral lines. Some damage coming out onto the, onto the hatchery as well. Hatchery lair, sorry. Getting a little bit tired, guys, and I think this is going to be pretty much the end of that, and getting the whelp from Atomic. 0-4. Sad face. Sorry. Must improve. Oh, don't worry, Atomic. I'm sure you'll get there. And that's GG. Interesting play from Scipio, actually. I wonder if the Carriers was just kind of like a reactionary thing, or if he wanted to do that in the first place.